In January of 1974, a group of chimpanzees crossed silently into a neighboring territory. They moved in single file. They didn't make a sound. They found a lone male sitting alone in a tree. 6 of them held him down, and then they killed him, and then they walked home. This was not a fight. This was an execution. Planned, coordinated, deliberate, and it was only the beginning. Jane Goodall had been studying the chimpanzees of Gombe since 1960. She'd spent over a decade living among them, naming them, watching them form friendships that looked, uncomfortably often, like our own. Then, in 1974, the community split in 2. The northern group kept the original territory. The southern group moved into the forest below, and then the raids began. Over the next 4 years, the northern community systematically hunted down every single member of the southern group, not in open battles, in ambushes, small groups crossing the border, finding isolated individuals and eliminating them one by one. By 1978, the southern community no longer existed. Every adult male was dead. The territory had been annexed. Goodall would later write that what she witnessed disturbed her more deeply than anything else in her career. Not because it was violent, but because it was organized. Before Gombe, scientists believed chimpanzees were peaceful, occasionally aggressive, but not systematically violent. Gombe ended that belief permanently. In the decades that followed, researchers documented the same pattern at every long-term chimpanzee study site on Earth, in Uganda, in Ivory Coast, in Guinea. In 2014, a team led by Michael Wilson at the University of Minnesota analyzed data from 18 chimpanzee communities, studied over 426 combined years. Their conclusion was unambiguous. Chimpanzee lethal raiding follows a clear strategic logic. Groups attack when they have overwhelming numerical advantage. They target isolated individuals. They avoid confrontations where losses might occur. They patrol borders systematically. They expand territory after successful raids. This is not animal aggression. This is military strategy. And the parallels don't stop at tactics. In 1988, primatologist Frans de Waal published Chimpanzee Politics. He documented alliance formation, coalition building, the punishment of defectors, the calculated timing of challenges to power. The patterns were so recognizable that senior politicians reportedly read the book as a manual, not as an insult, as a guide. In 1996, evolutionary biologist Richard Wrangham proposed what he called the imbalance of power hypothesis. His argument was simple. Lethal raiding, in chimpanzees and in humans, is not caused by anger or hatred. It is caused by opportunity. When one group can attack another with overwhelming advantage and minimal risk, they do it. Not because they are evil, because the calculation is favorable. Wrangham had studied both chimpanzee violence and the full anthropological record of human warfare. The similarities were not superficial. In both species, raids are conducted by male coalitions. Isolated individuals are preferentially targeted. Success correlates with territorial expansion. The decision to raid is timed and planned. Wrangham concluded that lethal raiding was not something humans invented. It was something we inherited, from a common ancestor that lived 6 to 8 million years ago. But here is the part of this story that is hardest to sit with. The Gombe War did not begin with violence. It began with a friendship. Before the community split, the males who would become enemies had grown up together, groomed each other, played together as juveniles, shared food. Goodall knew all of them by name: Humphrey, Figgin, Everett, Charlie, Hugo. She had watched them as infants, and then she watched them kill each other. She wrote afterward that the experience shook her faith in the divide between humans and the rest of the animal kingdom. Not because the chimpanzees were like us, but because we were so much like them. We have spent centuries explaining human violence as something that comes from outside us, from bad ideas, from failed systems, from poverty or ideology or hatred, and all of those things are real. But Gombe suggests something harder, something that doesn't fit in any explanation we prefer. that the capacity for organized violence between groups was not something civilization created. It was something civilization inherited. And every peace we have ever built, every treaty, every border, every institution, was built not against human nature, but on top of it, barely. Jane Goodall spent 14 years watching a community she had come to know as individuals, and then she watched them go to war. She didn't write that the chimpanzees were monsters. She wrote that she was afraid of what they revealed about us, not because they were like us, but because we were so much like them.